How yin's doing? I'm Ian, and as you could tell from reading the title and thumbnail of this video, this is the Streets of Rogue character guide to the Demolitionist. So without further ado, let's get into it.
What makes me a good demo man? If I were a bad demo man, I wouldn't be sitting here discussing it with you now, would I?
The Demolitionist is acquired from the Character Pack DLC, meaning you'll need to spend real-world money if you wish to play as them. As for your backstory, it reads, why build when you can destroy? After flunking out of architectural school in their second to last semester, the Demolitionists spent the last few years taking revenge on every standing structure in sight. Upon becoming mayor, the Demolitionists hopes to take aim at the real enemy by canceling all student loan debt. As for your starting attributes, you have an average of 2 in everything. Nothing impressive, but as my mother's mother would say, better than a sharp stick in the eye. As for your starting traits, in order of least to most important, you have Tech Expert. Remember how when you hack into computers you could do stuff as the hacker that you couldn't do as the other characters? Well, this is the trait that lets you do those other things. However, since you don't start with any hacking tools nor the hacker's laptop, your ability to get any mileage out of this trait will often be very inconsistent on your various runs. You also get the Master of Disaster trait, meaning you get XP from destroying inanimate objects, which includes walls, which is an amazing trait to have in conjunction with your big quest, but we'll go into that in greater detail later. And lastly among your starting traits is Blast Survivor. This trait makes it so that explosions you created will not cause any friendly fire to you. Just bear in mind that this only affects explosions that you are the ones responsible for. This means someone shooting a rocket launcher at you will result in you taking damage, but if you fire the same rocket launcher at point blank and get yourself caught in the crossfire of the explosion, you'll be just fine. This also applies to the exploding barrels you'll find in the industrial zone, where if you punch them with your bare fists to cause them to explode, you won't take any damage, but if a police officer hits you and the barrel with their baton, you'll take full damage from the explosion. Still, this trait should be comically easy for you to get a ton of mileage out of since your starting inventory is a cornucopia of explosive ordinances, including an explodey device. This detonates all nearby electronics, from ATMs to arcade machines and even refrigerators. You also start with 3 remote bombs in your starting inventory as well as a detonator to set them off. Please bear in mind that this detonator only affects the remote bombs that you place and will set all of them off at once. So if you manage to, say, stock up on a ton of remote bombs and then set off like 20 across the floor and then hit the detonator, all 20 will go off. I actually experienced a little bit of lag whenever I set off a lot of remote bombs at once, so be careful if you're playing on a low-end PC, you might crash. You also start with 3 door detonators and 3 landmines. I assume this is because it was deemed that giving you a rocket launcher at the gate was considered too overpowered due to your bomb processing unit. This item kind of operates like the shopkeeper's portable Cellomatic, but instead of giving you free money for your hot garbage, it gives you explosives instead. More specifically, the aforementioned lag-inducing remote bombs. And trust me when I say this, you'll want to have as many of these things as humanly possible in your inventory at any given time in order to complete your big quest. Speaking of,
I'm Torg, and I'm here to ask you one question, and one question only. Explosions?
Your big quest is called Rubble Rouser. In this quest, you must destroy 75 walls on each and every floor. 3 very important things to note in regards to this quest. First of all, walls that make up the world border don't count towards this quest despite being counted as walls in the game's code. Thankfully, this detail in particular is clarified in this quest's in-game description. Despite not counting towards your big quest, however, destroying the world border in any capacity can sometimes be beneficial. A perfect example of this would be police lockdowns whenever you're in the uptown levels, because while you cannot destroy the lockdown walls with your explosives, the walls that make up the world border can be. This means that in most situations, you should be able to use explosives to get out of police lockdowns. Secondly, please bear in mind that you do not start with the Blastmaster trait, meaning metal walls cannot be destroyed via explosives at game start. Obviously, grab this trait as soon as you possibly can if the opportunity presents itself, but also realize that due to the RNG nature of what traits you can pick, it's not a guarantee. The most important detail, however, that I feel I must share with those of you who intend to complete this big quest is that while you do need to be the one to destroy the walls, they don't need to be destroyed via explosives. As a result, burning buildings to the ground with a flamethrower or the burning bullets tray can result in you completing this quest without needing to use your explosive supply whatsoever. This can be a godsend on certain runs, since not needing to use your explosives for everything means that you'll have a stronger supply of them to use later on when things get tough. Because while using explosives is a solution to pretty much every single problem in this game, it's not the only one. And engaging in some of these alternative methods of solving problems can be quite useful at making sure you don't run out of explosives for when you find out that those alternatives no longer work. The best way to go about doing this quest, in my experience, is to do your missions on each floor first before going around setting explosives and starting fires as needed to complete the quota of destruction for this quest. Naturally, I strongly advise using window cutters and lockpicks purely as fuel for your bomb processing units should you find any of these items during your missions whatsoever. After all, why should you waste time trying to pick a lock on a door when you can just place a door detonator on it and have it blow up for you? Nor is there any practical reason to try to carefully cut a window open when you can just blow it up instead. I do have one piece of advice for those of you who are having trouble with this big quest because they're running out of explosives far too quickly. Place your explosives in the corners of buildings. That way, as many wall tiles will get caught in the blast radius as possible. If you manage to complete this big quest once you reach the mayor's village, the cost of your remote bombs will be reduced. Additionally, your remote bombs will be able to destroy all types of walls, regardless if you got the Blastmaster trait or not. And to make things even better, their blast radius will be enhanced. Oh, and the NPCs won't care where you're placing these explosives whatsoever until you detonate them. All in all, I give the Demolitionist a mega mean out of 10. If you're the kind of person who wants to solve every single one of their problems by having a huge-ass explosion resolve them for you, this is the perfect character for you. But that's all for now, folks. Comment if I got anything wrong in the comments section, like the video if you did, subscribe if you don't want to miss the next one. I've been Ian, you have been you, and this has been the Streets of Rogue character guide to the Demolitionist. And stay tuned, the Bouncer is coming up next.